All right, so today I kind of wanted to tackle a question that I get asked a lot, actually. And a lot of the shots that I have of like, people walking or just like those, smooth walking shots, a lot of you have asked what gimbal do I use, like what stabilizer? And to be honest, I haven't had a gimbal or like a Steadicam type device for like 5 years. And the way that I've been getting away with, getting those smooth walking shots has actually just been doing it handheld and using similar techniques to walking with a Steadicam, except with no Steadicam involved. And then with just a little bit of warp stabilizer, I'm able to get pretty much the same kind of a look as I would have gotten with like a 3-axis gimbal or a Steadicam. So I wanted to show you some of my techniques to getting smooth footage without the use of a 3-axis gimbal or a Steadicam type device. All right, so one thing that's gonna help a lot is to have an image stabilized lens. This is the 18-135 and it has image stabilization. So if you have an image stabilized lens, definitely utilize it. It's gonna help smooth out some of like the micro jitters that you're gonna get. And if you don't, it's always good to shoot on your widest lens that you have. So something wider than 35 millimeters is what I would suggest. So this 18 millimeters is gonna be about 29, I think. I would definitely say shoot as wide as you can and shoot on an image stabilized lens if you have it. But other than that, you don't really need anything else. If you do have like a rig that gets your hands further away from the camera, that's definitely gonna help, but it's not totally necessary. Now, most people, when they tell you how to get smooth shots, are gonna tell you to lock your shoulders in like this. But when you're doing this type of a walking shot, this is not the best way to hold your camera, because any little vibrations that come into your like upper body are gonna be transferred into your camera. So what I like to do is actually have a more loose hold on it like this, so that less of my upper body motion is gonna be transferred into the camera. And you're not gonna wanna hold a really big camera like this, but smaller cameras like DSLRs are pretty easy to hold and walk with like this. This is like basically how I hold my camera when I'm trying to get really steady shots. And I try to hold as little of my camera as possible so that there's just less micro jitter. So I'm holding it tight, but I'm not like, gripping it like this. I'm just trying to hold it as light as I possibly can so that it kind of just flows with, my walking motion instead of getting all those little micro jitters. The way I walk is actually the same way that I would walk using like a glide cam or something like that. I have my knees bent all the time and I always go heel toe instead of doing like really, jagged walking movements. And if you've ever used a glide cam or a steady cam, you'll develop your own, way that you can like walk and run. But typically most people do the same thing with, they just keep their knees bent. You do kind of a heel toe walking motion and that'll just smooth out your footage. One thing that I always like to keep in mind is I try not to like pause in between my steps, because that'll just make it that much more apparent that you're just walking with your camera. So when I'm walking, I try not to pause at all. I just keep on going and try to make it one smooth linear motion. That's just gonna smooth out your footage overall. So another quick tip to smoothing your shots out even more is you can shoot in slow motion in 60 frames per second, but if you're not going for that slow-mo look and you just wanna have like a real-time shot, I would say shoot in 30 frames per second and slow it down ever so slightly, and that will kind of smooth out all of the like micro vibrations that you might see in your footage. So you can take 30 frames per second and smooth it down to like 85% or even like 90%. Just that little bit can help a lot. All right, so the last tip is to utilize things with wheels. Now this has been talked about a lot by other filmmaking channels like Film Right and stuff like that, but if you utilize things that have wheels, you'll get a lot smoother motion. People have used like wheelchairs before, or like, carts and stuff like that. I've been skateboarding for like 20 years, so the thing that makes the most sense to me is just riding a skateboard. I know a lot of other people get those like really expensive one wheels or those like Segway type things. I'm not really into that, but if you're comfortable on a skateboard or maybe a longboard or something like that, you can get insanely smooth shots using a skateboard. So now that we got the shooting techniques down for getting a smooth gimbal-like shot, let's go back to my computer and we'll apply a little bit of warp stabilizer on it, and I'll show you the final product. All right, so we're back at my computer and I'm gonna be doing this in Premiere Pro, so let's get right into it. So what I do is I take the clip, and if it's shot in 30p, then I slow it down by about 85%. Now in Premiere, after you slow a clip down, you can't apply warp stabilizer to it. And so the way to get around this is I just nest the footage. So I just right click, hit nest, and then I apply warp stabilizer to that. And then once I go into warp stabilizer, I don't really change any of the main settings. The only thing that I'll do is I'll take the percent and I'll put it down to about 12 or 13. That for me is like the sweet spot, and I'll just let it render out, and that's basically it. So I don't do anything super crazy. The footage always seems to turn out better if I shoot in 60p and then slow it down. That's really how you're gonna get the best results when going handheld and trying to do like walking shots. So if you don't need something to look like real time, I would just say shoot in 60p and then slow it down, and you're gonna get the best results in those situations. So anyways, I hope that this video was helpful. If it was, it'd be great if you hit the like button, and be sure to subscribe to my channel for more content. And yeah, as always, I have links in the description below to where you can check out some of the gear that I use, as well as buy some of my LUTs if you're into that. I also have a link to my Patreon if you want to support me there. But thank you so much for watching, and until next time, I will see you all in the next video. Later.